Just bring this in like this, and it's really just about figuring out what is the texture. So little wee flicks like this, and you want to try and just break the edge a little bit as well, because that just helps to kind of create the feeling of texture. Now I did just sharpen the HB pencil as well, so it's nice and sharp. And we'll just move through adding in all the textures now. Now, one of the things that we can do while we're adding the texture to the bird is to really think about the tone, and we can use the sharp details of the texture to affect the tone. And the way you do that is over the light areas, the light tones, you space out the texture a bit more, and over the darker areas you build it up a bit more. So you can see how on the white of the tummy of the bird, the base of the bird, I'm just adding a few sparse lines, trying to just create a little bit darker around the edge to create the tone, but I'm mainly just doing a few little dashes to show the texture, but trying to stick to the tone of that part of the bird. Now we're going to look at adding some texture onto the tail. And while there isn't really a lot of texture on the tail feathers in the photograph, I like to just add a little bit of extra texture on, because I think it helps to define the tail and just to balance it out with the rest of the image. So I'm just adding some little lines here, just to kind of represent the little lines on the feathers, and it just helps to sit a little bit nicer with the other side of the bird. Now when we add the texture into the bark, we really just want some kind of sharper texture kind of points. So what I kind of do is use a bit of a random pattern, so a stabbing sort of pattern like this. Now the other thing to consider here is that in this image we don't really want the branch to take away from the bird. So we don't really want it to have a lot of its own detail and texture. We want it to look like a branch, but we just want it to sort of blend into the background a little bit and just be there to support the bird. When we look at a branch, we think of it as a rough texture, just a gritty sort of rough texture. So that's why lots of individual little dots feels right. Now obviously you could just keep going for a long time doing this, and if you did want to carry on you could do that, and you could build up layers and layers of texture and detail, and you could look at each little section really closely. But I think for the purposes of this video you can now see how to create the detail and how to create the texture in the branch there.